Best-selling author and social researcher. Her name is Brené-Brown. She burst into public consciousness with her TED Talk in 2010. The power of vulnerability remains the site's fourth most popular talk. Listen to this. It has 36 million views. Wow, today. Brené-Brown is busy juggling consulting and speaking events at Fortune 500 companies, including IBM, Disney, and Google. Her new book focuses on how each of us can cultivate effective leadership. It's called Dare to Lead. Brave work, tough conversations, whole hearts. Brené-Brown joins us once again, first on CBS This Morning to talk about her latest book. It's always good to have you at the table, Brené-Brown.
Good morning.
It is a masterpiece. I love it. I love it.
Thanks.
Just the fact that you've had 36 million views says to me that people are very open to finding out more about this. But I know very few bosses and leaders that think it's okay to show vulnerability. But you say you can't have courage without vulnerability. What do you mean?
You know, it was interesting because I used to spend a lot of time when I'd go into these companies kind of evangelizing about vulnerability, it's important. Then one day I found myself on a military base talking to special forces. And I just asked a simple question. Give me an example of courage that you've seen or witnessed in your life, or that you've done yourself, that didn't require uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, which is the definition of vulnerability. Give me a single example of courage that did not require that. And there was just silence until one guy just raised his hand and said, 3 tours, ma'am. There is no courage without vulnerability. And so now I just ask audiences that simple question. Give me an example of courage that doesn't require uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure.
You say most people think of courage as a personality trait, not a skill. You say it's a skill.
It's a skill set. I mean, we've been studying it I've been doing this work for 20 years, the last 7 years, really looking at courage and leadership specifically. 4 skill sets. Can you rumble with vulnerability? Can you stay in tough things when they get uncomfortable and awkward, or do you tap out? 2, and this is a hard one, living into your values. Are you clear about what your values are, and have you operationalized those into behaviors? Do you know what behaviors support your values, what don't? 3, braving trust. Can you build trust and be trustworthy? And the last one, which I think was really interesting, was learning how to get back up, learning how to rise. Because we found that people are more willing to be courageous up front if they know how to rise.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, sorry, John, that's why I called this a masterpiece. Because to just sum up everything, and then you write, courage is contagious. To scale daring leadership and build courage in teams and organizations, we have to cultivate a culture in which brave work, tough conversations, whole hearts, the expectation in armor is not a necessary or rewarded. That's the thing, because people want to know, how do we scale this type of behavior? Yeah.
Courage is incredibly contagious, as is fear, as we can see in the world, as is scarcity. And so courage is contagious, and we can teach it, we can learn it, we can measure it, and we have to create cultures where being armored all the time is not rewarded behavior.
So, first of all, as a disciple of the gifts of imperfect parenting, I have to say thank you. Now, let's move on. And I hate to get political, but one of the best leaders we have right now, who has totally reformed a political party in his image, who's gotten 2 people on the Supreme Court and achieved other things, thinks showing vulnerability is the key to loss. Not showing vulnerability is, in fact, one of his signature traits. So that seems to be the opposite of what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think, so I'm glad we went there, because here's the thing.
John goes there.
Yeah, John goes there. I'll go with you, John. You can absolutely get away. I mean, you can get masses of people behind you if you do 2 things. If you weaponize uncertainty, if you take people who are in uncertainty and guarantee them certainty, and then give people someone to blame for their pain. I mean, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that fear has a short shelf life, and you cannot do that for very long. The question is always, what kind of damage are you going to do while you're able to do that? But I have seen no evidence, and I'm reading Doris Kearns Goodwin right now, so I'm a huge
Her book
fan.
on
Yes,
leadership.
her book on leadership. I don't think that's sustainable.
Let me ask you this. I'm a leader in whatever I'm doing in my life. How do I be more vulnerable if I want to try and access this trait that is so important to leadership?
So vulnerability is not disclosure. So that's the big mythology, right? It's not like, I know a lot of leaders who show up and just everything. That has nothing to do with courage or vulnerability. Vulnerability is, can you manage uncertainty and risk and emotional exposure? Can you stay in the hard conversation? Can you tell the truth? Can you give feedback when it's hard? Can you ask for feedback when it's hard? Vulnerability is, I believe, and it's probably 60% of the book, the only path to courage. And it is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, trust, empathy. I love it when people call and say, hey, can you come talk to our company, Brene? We'd love to have you speak. Just don't mention like vulnerability.
Yeah, and
Yes, yes.
But you said you hope that people that read this book, it will result in one behavior change for leaders, that they should read it cover to cover on a flight. One behavior change that you think all leaders need is what?
It's going to be simple. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Stop avoiding the tough conversations because you think you're being polite or kind to people. That's not kind.
Sister,
breath of fresh air.
Preach, preach, sister, preach.
so
Love
good.
everything you say. It's so
Clear as
true.
kind.
Thank you. Brene Brown, thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Very nice.